Wepa! One day we're gonna figure out how to like lead that music into the intro so that I'm like jamming on the screen when the music comes in, you know? Good evening. I was about to say good afternoon. Happy Tuesday. Thank you guys for being here. As per always, my favorite day of the week. I love sharing the screen with you amazing people and watching our guests and having that interaction with our audience. So I'm excited for tonight because I always love when we can make other people shine. I don't like always being the one on the camera, so it's exciting to always have someone with me. I don't like to be lonely, people. The last time we were here, we were talking about some amazing things, and I had such a good time with Edwin Desimore and Luz Colon. It was an exciting evening with a lot of good insight and obviously a lot of things that made a few people say, But we had a good time. It's what we do. So if you missed that interview, head over to our YouTube page or our Facebook page and check it out and see what we talked about. But as always, let's remind folks why we are here. If you or someone you love is dealing with any form of domestic violence, whether it's someone that you live with, a friend, a family member, or even a foe, it takes 2 seconds to give them the number that should be on the screen. 1-800-799-7233. There it is. National Domestic Violence Hotline. We always say we give the national one because we don't know where you're watching from. So it's our hope that wherever you're calling, if you're from Philadelphia, you're from Florida, wherever you are in the world, you're able to dial that number and receive some sort of help. Remember that our current website is now down and we are working on a fantabulous new one where all of you are going to be able to get all of the updates for what we're doing in the coming year and just great updates every day because we rock at Love Shouldn't Hurt. But tonight I'm going to bring on ladies that rock even better than I do. It's always great to see where someone has come from. People see me often and they say, oh my God, your story was crazy. Look at you now, your positivity and the way that you get through life. And it took a lot of courage to get there. And these 3 women, I am super, super just taken back from. When I heard each of their stories, I was just like, whoa. Some of them I know the full story. Some of them I know bits and pieces of. But what I do know when I see all 3 of them is that where they were is definitely not where they are now. They are 3 phenomenal women who are living in such a better space, but such a better place. And what I always say, they took their pain and they made it a purpose for themselves. They made them stronger women, stronger individuals. I have 3 beautiful women in the back of the room. We're going to express ourselves tonight, but it is Survivors Edition. We're going to talk about 3 amazing survivors who we are going to honor at this year's Love Gala. I don't know who our producer is going to throw up first, but I assure you, whoever she is, she's phenomenal. So let's welcome our first guest. Don't know who she is yet. Hey!
Hi.
You always got to be cautious. Who's he going to put
I
up
know. I was
first?
like, man, I got a funny feeling he's going to pop me up.
Yep. So Miss Christine Lopez, how are you feeling tonight?
I'm doing good. Feeling good.
Good,
Yeah,
good.
can't complain.
Good. Well, I have to say that I am super excited, and I will give people some background. So this year for our gala, we have a committee. So for the past 2 years, I have put this gala together with just myself and Ray, kind of like him hearing me cry and me lose my mind and like, oh my God. But this year, I have such an amazing committee who's helped me, and I will say that it was so exciting for me because I've known Chrissy for a very long time. I've known her family for a long time. And it was nuts for me to know her and have the same thought and someone in our committee say, why don't we honor Christine Lopez this year? I was like, you're freaking right.
Well,
And
thank you.
I think tonight it's super important for the people that are watching to understand to understand why. So Chrissy, before you tell us a little bit about your past, just tell us about who Christine is.
I lived in Philadelphia all my life. Come from a pretty big family. My parents are very well known in the community as well because they were always out there, helping other youth as well from Youth Encounter. So I was always in the crowd of that, meeting different people. But now, currently in my life, I am just someone who's trying to do something more for the community. I started a t-shirt brand that I had to take a little hold on for right now because I had some personal matters that I had to handle first. But I wanted to be able to do something to basically show support to other people who are going through hard, difficult times, whether it's domestic abuse, whether it's, substance abuse, anything. But the domestic abuse hits really, really hard for me and very personal for me because it's like 13 years this year that I left, 13. And I never would have imagined that I'd go through something like that and be able to have the strength to be able to pick up, pack, and drive 6 hours back home. You know what I'm saying? So not too long ago, I was literally like in my mind, like, damn, how long has it been? And I look back. I literally went back on my phone, pictures and everything. I'm like, wow, I've come pretty far, 13 years. Because had you seen me when I came back, maybe the first couple years, my mental, my emotional, my spiritual, everything was so depleted. I was in such a bad place that I just trusting anybody, being able to even talk about it, I would get angry, not even emotional, but just angry, because to allow myself to be with someone who violated me in such a manner, I'm just like, I'm not that person no more. And I'm very grateful for the support system that I have, but I'm just right now, I'm in a really good space. My peace of mind is my most important thing to me. So I try to surround myself with people who are just positive, who want more, who are goal oriented. I've made a vow to myself that I would get out a little more this year, because God knows I'm home all the time. But I'm in a good space. I am.
Good. I'm good for that. So, stronger. That's right. Ray wrote stronger. You're absolutely a stronger person. So, I can't remember. Remind me on the shirt. That's exactly what it is it not?
Yeah.
Stronger. Absolutely. Yeah. So, your abuse came, unfortunately, in a marriage, correct?
Yeah.
Correct. So,
I got married.
Tell us a little bit about that story.
I got married November 2009. Person that I met, in the beginning, like they always say, it's always the bells and the whistles. Great, yeah. Awesome to my family. He was in the military. We got engaged, and we had a wedding that was pretty quick. But in the beginning, I saw things, but I thought it was just the stress of the wedding and then the distance, and so I just let it go. But when I had to move to Virginia, and I had to start living a life with him, I started noticing little things where he would slowly try to get me to not talk to my family as much, or he would have demands of me to cook and to do this. And he goes, "You're a wife, you're a woman. It's your job to be barefoot and pregnant." And like, it was like another personality came out of nowhere. Then it was trying to get me to agree to go move to Germany with him. He wanted me away from my family. Then it was talking about getting pregnant. I did not want to get pregnant at that time, because I felt like we just got situated. I just want to enjoy being married for the first year. I was young. Got pregnant. But it was not in the way we always think, because the men's mentality, or his mentality, was, if you're not going to give it to me, I'm going to take it. So I don't share that part. But I got pregnant, and I took it for what it was. Went through the motions, went to the doctors and everything. But eventually, anything that I did wasn't enough. It got physical. And to the point where I went flying down a flight of stairs. And I lost the baby. And I was at fault. I'm the one that blamed. And it got to the point where my anger got so bad that I told him, I said, don't come home. Just do whatever you got to do. Like, just leave me alone. I need my space. And he came home, and you know how that there's a person there next to you? You could feel their body, their heat. And I turned around, and I don't know what happened. Maybe I saw red. And this was a person who collected, daggers and knives from being deployed. And I went to his room, his little man cave, and I grabbed the knife. Yeah. I wanted to kill the man. I'm at the door of our bedroom, and I'm like all I could hear is my mom in my head. Don't do it. Don't do it. He's not worth your peace. He ain't worth your freedom. Pack up and leave. That's all I heard in my head. And before you know it, I was downstairs putting things in certain places, hiding them, so he wouldn't know what I was doing. So came 1 week. I drove back to Philly, told them what was going on, came back. Eventually, I made my escape. But I had to run out, because I had a chaplain tell me, she goes, "You need to go. I got you. Do what you need to do. Leave." I left, but let me tell you something. I was scared. I didn't know what he was going to do.
Right.
For the first year, it was nothing but threats, harassment. I waited 3 years to finally get my divorce. And it took me a long time for me to just get that peace again, because he tried to drill it in my head where it was like, you can't be anything or anyone without me. You need me. You depend on
Mhm.
me. And I'm
Mhm.
like, no, no,
Mhm.
I don't depend on you. I
Mhm.
got this. I picked up and I left, and I'm gonna do what I gotta do. I'll figure it out. I'll work 2 and 3 jobs. I'll live with my mom, my stepdad for a little while if I have to. It don't matter.
Mhm.
And I did. I did. And let me tell you
Mhm.
something. I went through some really, really dark times in my life because it's not
Mhm.
something you talk about so much,
Yeah.
especially talking to my mom about it, because I love her to death, but she's not an emotional person.
Yeah.
So her hearing that part of my story, it was just like, huh? Like, yeah.
Mhm.
So it's like kept a lot of stuff inside. I don't even talk this much about this with even with my sister, because it's like,
Mhm.
I think for them it's they don't know how to give comfort to it. And it's not anything against them. It's just I
Mhm.
learned to just either journal, listen to music, go for a drive. And I do have my small circle of friends that they do know what has happened, and I'm grateful to God for them. Um, but I say to myself a lot, because it's just, I think, a trust issue, and just every time I go, I go all in, and it's like, you know what I mean. So it's like, but it was a bad place. It was a bad time, bad experience.
Mhm.
I don't wish it on nobody, and I'm grateful to God that I was able to get out. Because if I would have stuck it out or stayed, I don't think I'd be alive right now.
Mhm.
I don't. Um, I just now I want to be able to be better, do better, help if I
Mhm.
can help. Um, use my story in any kind of way that I can to help someone else. I mean, I may not know all the ins and outs of what to do like you might, um, but I'm always there, and I always, I always look out. If I hear or I know something's going on, I've reached out to you a couple times, like,
Mhm.
hey, listen. But
Mhm.
it's just, I'm glad that it's over with. It's a
Mhm.
piece of my life where it's like, even though it's 13 years ago, it's still sensitive. It still hits,
Mhm.
and it's like, you know what? I'm not gonna fuss about it. I'm not gonna cry over it anymore, because I made it out. I got out.
That's right.
So,
And that is the biggest thing that should be your takeaway.
yeah.
There's so many people who struggle with it, and I think it's perfect that the word that you use for your shirts is stronger,
Mm,
because at that time you were very vulnerable, you were young, it was a difficult time, but you decided to take that little voice in your head, and a lot of us have that little voice in our heads, but we never leave. We
mm,
ignore that voice for many different reasons, whether it's pain, whether it's fear. There's so many different things, finances, whatever the case may be, being used to having someone around. We let a lot of things hold us back, but you took that opportunity to say, okay, this is the time. I'm going to take it. I'm not going to pick up this knife and do what I have to do. I'm going to get in this car and I'm going to drive home, no matter if I'm going to be with nothing and I got to start over and I got
mm-hmm.
to live with my parents. A lot of us take those steps and we don't realize it, but it does make us stronger.
Yeah.
People always, 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 their biggest question to me is, why did you stay for so long? Why did you stay for so
Mm-hmm.
long? 6 years is a long time.
Yeah.
Why did you not leave? I had to leave when it was my time to leave,
Yep.
but I don't regret it. And people are like, what? So you're okay with the abuse? Absolutely not. I'm not okay with the abuse. But had I not gone through it, I wouldn't be a mother to the beautiful daughter that I have.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be as strong as I am. And I wouldn't be able to do what I do every Tuesday. I
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to go to those schools and talk to those kids. That craziness that I went through and that life that I had almost 20 years ago, 15 years ago, has made me who I am
Yeah.
today. It's made me a better person. And I absolutely believe that though that time in your life was so difficult, it made me cry. I'm just sitting here like, I'll tell you, there's people in the back green room who also were crying and wiping their face off. Your story is not just your story. Your story is like 20 other women's stories that are watching tonight, and
Yeah.
100 other women who aren't watching tonight, and 1,000 other women in a different country. The difference between you and them tonight is the fact that you decided to get up, get in that car, and drive away. And now you're 13 years later, and you are a stronger Chrissy.
Yeah.
And that's why we're honoring you this year, because every year at our gala, we want to continue to highlight women who have come and gone past that and are where they are today. You may not feel like you are where you should be. You are absolutely where God wants you to be. You are here. you're alive, and you're able to tell your story.
Thank you.
And I applaud you for that.
Thank
I
you.
am I'm going to send you to the back. I'm going to bring one of the other ladies out. We're going to hear what they have to say, and then we're going to come together so that this group of warriors can have a discussion about their lives. I don't know who else is coming next. I know who's in the backstage, but he's randomly popping these women on the screen. Every single one of them has a story that's amazing, and every single one of them is stronger. He caught her with a water bottle. We warned her. We warned her. He'll throw you
I
up
was
any
thirsty.
time.
I had to.
You know, he did that on purpose.
I know he did. I know he did. I'm gonna get him.
Hi, Jen. How are you tonight, babe?
Hi. I'm good. I'm good.
Good.
Yep.
Look at you. You got a lot of energy, girl. Always. Ready,
Yeah,
ready.
yeah, yeah. I have to. I got to keep up with the kids. I got to
That's
stay
right.
young.
So I was watching you in the green room and I saw you wiping your tears away. Why did her story hit you so hard?
Simply because it just resonates. Usually the men that are abusive, they all act similar ways. Tell us that we can't live without them. They're manipulative. They try to keep us from our family. And so just hearing her story, it's like, I can relate to that. I can relate to that. I remember him telling me that too. So it's like all these men have something in common aside from the abuse.
All right. So I'm looking down at my phone because people are sending me text messages like, ask her this, ask her that. We'll get there. And sometimes people don't like writing them in the chat, so they send me text messages. So that's why I'm looking down. So it resonates with you. So I met you through our executive producer, Ray. I remember last year him saying before the gala, like, I have a friend, she's been watching, but she's so strong. She's been through so much. I'm going to make sure that she goes to the gala. And I've seen you watching the show. And again, we sat and we talk and we have these meetings. And it's super important for me to just point that out, that people are rooting for you guys. Like, I literally didn't make the decision on my own this year. I had a committee of people who sat together and just names kept getting thrown out. How about this person? How about that person? And your name popped up. And your name popped up because I think that, people don't realize how we walk and what we present ourselves as, right? So I saw you last year at my gala, and immediately when I walked, you already had an energy, the same energy you just came when you came on the screen, very like vibrant and loud and hi. You never met me before, and you were like, hi, and like loud. And, it says a lot about you. And I think you resonate a lot with me because people see me and they're like, you're always so loud and always so hyper. And I'm like, listen, this is me. So it was very exciting to be able to meet you and say, hey, she got the same energy I got. But I know that you have a story to tell. So I want people to see that this person on the screen, look at her, she's bright, she's bushy-tailed, she's smiling and she's happy. This is what survivors look like. This is what we look like. And this is why we were calling everyone sheroes, right? Because you go through these storms, but I think it brings you out stronger. Jennifer, tell us a little bit about your story.
I was born and raised in Philly, the one of 5 siblings. I'm a mother of 4. And I just finished my associate's degree, and I'm having a graduation ceremony in June. So I'm super proud of that. Something that I was told that I wouldn't accomplish by my abuser, but I did. So there goes that. And I am just living my life, trying to find my purpose. And I'm very grateful to be here tonight to share my side of the story. To be here with you. I'm thankful that you brought me onto the show. And I'm super excited to just answer your questions and,
So when did your abuse start? How old were you?
I was 18.
18. Okay.
I met my kid's father when I was 17 in high school. So we were what they call high school sweethearts. And even in that first year of us being together, he showed signs of abuse. And I didn't pay attention to them. I was young, and it was puppy love, if you want to, call it that. And I remember my mom telling me, he's not good for you. And, you're a teenager. You don't want to listen to what your mom has to say, especially when this was like, he was my first boyfriend. So even within a year of the relationship, when it first began, he had pushed me already. And he would verbally abuse me. And I brushed, brushed it under the rug. when I got pregnant with my daughter, everything, you know, it was like there were good days and bad days. And I always tried to think, well, we have more good days than bad days. I lied to myself.
Yeah.
When I was pregnant with my daughter, he straight up told me, is it too late to have an abortion? Because he didn't want to have a little girl. So that really broke my heart. He would hit me in front of the kids. I do recall when I was pregnant with my first daughter, I had caught him cheating on me, and he somehow blamed me. And I remember him throwing me to the ground when I was pregnant. I remember one time the dog tearing open a bag of trash, and he made me clean it. And I was pregnant and I was close to throwing up because the trash was it's just stunk really bad. And I remember being pregnant and just sitting there picking up trash. But that she's 13 now. So it was things like that, and it didn't stop. He would bite me, he would choke me, pull my hair. But what he didn't do mostly was hit me in the face. Like if he would hit me, it'd be down here. So people didn't know unless I told somebody. They didn't know that I was being abused because your clothes cover up everything. I'd have bite marks here, bruises on my arms. And I remember trying to hide it from my mom. I'd have like chichones on the back of my head, which obviously you can't see. And I guess the turning point for me was when I had to end up getting a restraining order on him because he wouldn't leave my house. And I remember I would sit in my room, sometimes just sit in the closet and just scream and be like, I just want this to be over. Like, I don't want this for my kids anymore. Like, I want to die. Like, I don't even want to be here anymore. Like, why can't I leave this relationship? And people would ask me and I didn't have an answer. I'd say, I don't know. He told me things like that. You can't survive without me. I made you who you are. You don't make enough money. You're not going to go back to school. You're not going to finish. And he would just say things like that to me. And the turning point was one time my daughter, it was one day he was just like harassing us. And my daughter at the time, maybe she was like 7, 8, she cried and begged for him to let us sleep because she had a test at school tomorrow. And she wanted to do good on her test. So she pleaded for her dad, like, Daddy, can you please leave us alone? Because I need to take a test tomorrow. So the next day, I had called the cops over something, and with that conversation, with what my daughter told him and the cop, she was a female cop. And I would never forget, she told me, she said, listen, because I had called the cops a few times and I never went through with the court dates. I never showed up because I would back up because he would be like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do it anymore. And then I would always, you know, he would manipulate me to not go. So when the cop told me, she said, listen, from a mother to a mother and a woman to a woman, he's not going to change. Look at your kids in there. Look at your kids. You know what you have to do. And that was it. That was the turning point. I said, you're absolutely right. I thought about what my daughter had told him the night before, and I said, I'm done. Like, I can't deal with this anymore. And once the PFA was in effect, the cops came and took him out of my house. And anytime he violated it, he would get locked up.
Wow. So how many years has it been that you've been on your own without him?
It's still a little fresh. My youngest is 6. And he's been out of the house since she was an infant. So like maybe 2017 was when he left. But as I told you before, it's hard when you have kids with an abuser because they try to use the kids as an excuse to be around you. And right now he has a drug addiction. He's out in the streets on K&A, and he's lost. And he's even been bothering me recently. As far as last night, he comes and bangs on my door, and I don't answer the door. He knows where I live, and I'm still dealing with it to this day. So it's very hard. And the excuse is always, oh, I want to see the kids.
Mhm.
And I can't deal with it.
So your kids are older now and have obviously they understood at the time and they saw and they spoke, but now that you know you're where you are at this point in your life, you know the last one is 6, so it's been a few years. Um, do the oldest people? I'm sorry, I said people. Do your older children? Do they give you like their opinions on it? Do they say this is what I feel about it? Do those conversations ever come up with the
Yeah, I
older
have
kids?
conversations with my kids, and
Hmm.
it's a situation where you don't he shows them what kind of person he is already.
Hmm. Hmm.
So it's kind of like, yeah, I don't want to deal with him, you know.
Hmm.
And they tell me, they say, Mom, it's so peaceful. Even when he initially got kicked out, the kids were like, Mom, it's so much more peaceful because every day it was a fight,
Hmm.
and they loved it, you know.
Hmm.
And I owe that to them. Like, they don't
Hmm.
deserve to see us fighting or anything like that. And
Hmm.
you know, they say how peaceful it is. And my oldest, she's 13, so
Hmm.
she's already at a point where she's like, you mentioned her father, she's like, okay, you know, next, you know, she's over it.
Yeah. So Ray is giving us words for each of the women as they come up, and his word for you is resilient.
Hmm.
Resilient. And I
I
think that's
like
the
that.
yeah, I think that's the perfect word for you because you know you've been through the storm, right? Like many of us, you've been through the storm, but you continue to kind of just keep pushing through, keep forging through, and you know your biggest reason to do so is your kids. And you know I can attest to seeing you, and I watch your TikToks with your kids, and I see how happy they look, and I see how happy you are. And you know I always say I don't want people to think that we walk away from this and we're fixed and we're perfect and life is just
Right.
great, right? Because being abused in your past is something that unfortunately a lot of us still carry. You know, like
Hmm.
my daughter is going to be 16, so mine was 16, 17 years ago.
Hmm.
And you know, I feel like I am a better person. This Christmas, Michael Mai gave me a necklace and it had a phoenix, and she said, "You're reinventing yourself." And I think that the phoenix was what properly describes you now because you're rising up from those flames and you're different. And I think that it speaks a lot into the transition of where we go every year and every new chapter of our lives. Because a few years ago, my younger sister gave me a necklace, and I remember her giving me, and it was a lotus flower. And she said the same thing, like you're changing, you're evanescent. There's something different about you. And now a couple years later, I'm like, wow, like I've gotten even
Hmm.
further. And now she's like, no, you're like a phoenix and you're rising above it. So I think that it's not something that we leave behind us. It still always becomes a part of us because there's different things that kind of stay with us, you know, whether it's mentally things that they've said to us or just things that
Right,
we've
because
gone
then you
through.
have those triggers.
Yeah.
Um, Definitely that's a big one for me, but those are things that I'm working on.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
I was doing yoga and meditation for a while. I kind of fell off, but I'll get back to it. And those are things that helped me through my struggle after he
Hmm.
finally left. Those were things that helped me to push
Yeah.
forward. You know, aside from being the strength for my kids, it was yoga, it was meditating, it was
Yeah.
being around positive people. And that's why you see me like this all the time, because I'm like, I wasn't like this.
That's right.
I was more like, you know, and now
Yeah,
people tell me you have a glow to you. And
you do.
yes, I'm living and I'm happy. I took out the garbage.
That's right. That's the best way to put it. And look at you, you're about to graduate. I'm so proud of you. So
Thank
we
you.
will end it on the 30 mark with you. We're going to come back with our next woman. But before we do, as per always, we want to remind folks at this time that we're at the half an hour mark and why we are here. Hello to all the beautiful women watching and men. I see you, Michael, Carmen, Vania, Soko, everyone who's on the stream, Crystal. Thank you guys for joining us tonight and being a part of this. We always love to see you guys and welcome you and have you interact. So thank you so much. If you're here and it's your first time here, we just want to remind folks if you or someone you know is dealing with any form of domestic violence, whether it's your I don't know wrong with my words today. I don't know if it's the lipstick got my lips checked, but if you or anyone you know is dealing with any form of domestic violence, whether it's a friend, family, or a foe, that number for the domestic violence hotline is scrolling across the bottom of that screen, 1-800-799-7233. 1233. We are here tonight with some strong ladies who have gone through a storm. We have a beautiful Love Gala every year, and this year we are honoring survivors as we always do because I like to call it a survivor's ball. And this year's three honorees are here, and we're having a different form of express yourself. Normally, for express yourself, we have just random people who say, hey, I want to be on the show. I want to talk about something. Let's get on there. And I allow the audience to express themselves. Tonight, we are allowing our Survivor Award recipients express themselves in a way that's different from normal. They are telling us their stories, parts of it, and letting us kind of into their lives so that you can see the storms that they've come from, but they're also telling us a lot about who they are now and why they are our sheroes. So the last woman who is coming up, if you guys watched a few weeks ago, has changed her life in a crazy way. She does something that you probably wouldn't think this small, cute lady would do, but she does. And she has an amazing story. When she told us when she was on, I was even taken back. So let's bring on our final award recipient, Dannielle Dupree. Hi,
Hi. Hi. I got to use these headphones because I can't, for some reason, my computer sound won't work.
That's okay. I like them. I saw when you were behind the screen, they got little horns at the top.
Oh, yeah. My little gamer headphones.
I love it. How are you, Miss Dannielle?
I am good.
Good, good. I know that the last time you were here, you told us about what you do currently. You told us a little bit about your story. But for those folks who weren't joining us that night and want to know a little bit about Dannielle, we are honoring you as well as our gala this year. So tell us a little bit about your past and what's brought you into your current lifestyle.
Okay, so just like the other women here, I was young and got into a relationship. And at the time when I was in a relationship, I guess things were different, right? We were young, things were happy and easy. But he happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, and he wound up getting shot. So he actually got shot in his heart where he almost died. He had to learn to walk, to talk, to do everything again. And it took a big impact in his life, which is normal for anyone. But they also started him on pain medications. So at that time, he started pain medications. He didn't need them, obviously, right? He was in a lot of pain. He was just trying to get his life back together. I was there every step of the way. I helped him in every, sense that I could. But by the time we went home, things were different. So for one thing, I was in nursing school at the time. I already had my one son. I didn't have my second son yet. I have three boys. So I didn't have my second son yet. But I was in nursing school. I was, doing the mom thing. I was still coming home, being a nurse for him. My dad was sick at the time, so I was taking care of my father as well. I just had a whole bunch going on in my life, and I was ripping and running from one place to another, but I was making sure I still gave him like as much of my time as I could. But, it became like little issues of like, do you really have to finish nursing school right now? And I'm like, but this is the time for me to finish it more than ever because he couldn't work. I still had a child to take care of. We still had responsibilities, needed a car to get from A to B. So it was just so many reasons I needed to finish school. I'm like, I need to finish school so I could get a better job and I could do more for us. Like my intentions were so good, right? But to him, it was just like, oh, it was time that I wasn't home. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna finish, but I'm gonna make sure I could dedicate more time to your needs, So right there, I was already putting myself on the back burner and sort of trying to make sure everything was good with him. I had finished school and I was like drained. I was beyond drained. I was, it seemed like he was really getting better at that time. I was really happy that he was getting better, but it seemed like he became more needier. It was like, hey, I can't just get up and make oatmeal or something like that. That was real simple. I was like, can you do it before you leave out to go to work or whatever you had to do. And I'm like, okay. So I'm trying to do that. I'm trying to, like I said, still do everything for my child, help my dad, because my dad was very stubborn when he was sick. He didn't want anyone else to take care of him. So, I was just pulled in all these different directions. Finally, it seemed like he was like, oh, I want to go to a social event. Like he wanted to go to a family's party or something like that. And I'm like, oh, good. We're getting back to normal.
Mhm.
Everything is going to start getting better. I had got a job, my first job in a hospital in
Mhm.
Philadelphia, Penn Hospital. So I'm like, I got a great job, like it's just everything was getting better. And then I started noticing that he was like falling asleep a whole bunch. I started noticing that he would have mood swings. I sort of tried to ignore it. I'm like, oh, maybe it's just, him adjusting to going back outside and doing things again. Um, but then it started to be things in the house were disappearing, little things like that. So, before I knew it, I was like, things were a little bit off, but I'm like, you know what? It could be we were still living in the same area where he
Mhm.
had got shot at. So I'm like, maybe it's like the surroundings, all
Mhm.
types of stuff. So I was like, all right, let's try to move out of the city. So we wound up moving to the Poconos. When we moved to the Poconos, at that time we were happy. Things were really good. I did take a downgrade when it came to working. Things are a little slower out there. So it was like you got paid less because the cost of living was less and
Mhm.
whatever. But it just seemed like we were in a better place. So I was like, okay. Then I got pregnant with my second son. My dad was doing a little bit better. So it was like everything was picking up again. And I was like, oh, yay, everything is going to be great.
Mhm.
Um, and then I started to notice the same thing again. I started to notice like different changes. Like he would be out for hours and things and I was just like, I just couldn't put my finger on it. Like, I don't know what's going on. Um, then while I was pregnant with my son, it just became like a lot of like dumb arguments. Like I said, stuff missing. I'm like, oh, I know I bought this for the kids, or oh, I know I had this $100 over here, and and I'm just like something's going on. It's like, just talk to me. You know what I mean? You're in a relationship. You're like, we should be able to communicate. You tell me what's going on. Maybe I can help you. We can figure it out. But he just wouldn't talk to me at the time. So it ended up being like a long 9 months of like arguing but he never put his hand on me. There was a time while I was pregnant where um I hid my cards because I was like, listen, like something's going on. Like money was disappearing off my bank cards, and I would check it, and they're like, oh, your card was used as such and such. But then I'd be like, but my card is still here, So it was just like I was so confused. Like, is somebody
Mhm.
robbing me? What's going on? So I started hiding stuff, to keep it safe. Just like I got to figure it out. And he realized that he couldn't find it. So one time I was asleep. I was like literally like 9 months. I'm asleep on the couch, and I wake up like getting hit like hard as I don't know what in the head with a remote for the TV remote. Like he threw that thing at me with full force. And I like woke up and I'm like, oh my God. Like I'm thinking like I didn't even know like what happened. I'm like, what happened? Like, oh my God. And he's like, yeah, so like you're hiding stuff from me now. Like that's the type of relationship we got. And I'm like, did you hit me? Like I'm lost. I was literally asleep. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
I'm like so lost. Like, what happened? And he just like freaked out. He like punched the wall and then he left out. So that was like my first like real occasion where I was like, like it was like he hit me, but at the same note, it's still early. You're like, oh, he didn't really hit me. And then I'm like I said, I was asleep. So it sort of made it even more confusing because I'm like,
Mhm.
I see the remote and I'm like, did he like throw that remote at me? You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, something for sure hit me. Um, from there, I just, I was like, maybe I should, go home. I had a friend at the time that I was real close to in the Poconos, and someone robbed her house and she got killed.
Mm.
Um, yeah. So from there, I just was like, my support system out here just wasn't good. My dad was like, just come home. So I wound up talking him back into going home. I lived with my parents for a little bit. and then and he lived with his. But we miss each other. We're family. We're trying to work things out. So we wound up moving back together. We moved back together probably like 2 years. We were pretty good, but then my dad went downhill again. So I was taking care of my dad. And he was like, a lot of time he just wasn't there. It wasn't really bad at this point. It's just he was missing a lot. And I was like, I don't know what's going on. I had my second son. I was dealing with my dad. I had so much going on. And I'm like, I just don't know, like what's going on here. My dad ended up passing away in 2011. And then my brother got locked up. So after that, it was like I didn't really have any males around me. And that's when things started to intensify with the whole abuse thing. So first it started, of course, verbally. He started, calling me names, saying I was stupid and that's why I had nobody and this, that, and the third. So we were already having money issues because, like I said, we moved from one place to another. I was taking care of my dad, and at the time, his insurance wouldn't pay me to do it, so I just did it. But it also limited how many hours I could work anywhere else. So to him, it was just like whatever. And then when my dad passed, he's like, "Oh, you did all that for nothing," and I'm like that's crazy, like. Even if my dad passed, I still don't regret any of the time I spent.
Your father.
Yeah. So, but yeah, things just started getting really bad. It went back to things missing again. And then finally I was just like, I'm just gonna straight out ask him, So I'm like, listen, like what happened to this or whatever? And he's like, oh, they stopped giving me my pain pills and I had to buy some pills from the streets. Like, so I'm like, that's horrible. Like, you can't do that. Like, you don't know what you're taking, So I told him, I'm like, you have to go and talk to your doctor. So he wound up talking to his doctor. They put him on some type of, like, it was a lower dosage of a pill, but it was working for him. And he was doing way better. So at this point, we started doing way better, way better. Our relationship was good. We ended up getting married. And then after the marriage, it was like things started going downhill again. It started to be like he was in a lot of pain and he couldn't control it. And I'm like, okay, let's go to the doctors. He didn't want to go to the doctors. Then it was, like I said, money missing, games missing, all types of jewelry, everything started missing. And I'm like, come on, like you can't just take everything and just sell everything. And I was like, and then at that, you don't know what you're taking. You're taking pills from off the street. You have no idea for real what they're giving you. They were giving him like morphine pills from off the street. Like they're not even in the hospital, like that's the last pills you should be taking off the street. So I was trying to explain to him, like, you really need to get help or whatever the situation is. And of course, he just was like, I'm in pain. You don't know what type of pain I'm in. You don't care. Making me feel real crappy. Then it was like from there, it just became like me trying to basically force him to get help. Like, if you don't get help, I'm gonna leave. But the more I threatened, the worse it got. So it started to be like, oh, I'm gonna leave. And then it was like, oh, if you leave, you're never gonna see your kids again. Or if you leave, I'm gonna go to your mom's house. It was just so many threats that he started to give. And I'm like he don't mean it. I'm like, it's the pills. For the longest time in my head, I was just like, it's the pills. They just messing with him. It's really not who he is as a person, right? So I guess I focused so much on it being the pills that were controlling him, and I wanted the person he was to come back, that I sort of excused the things that he did. Then from there, it just got bad. He started pushing me. He started grabbing me. He would take like our bill money. Like 1 month, he took like our full rent money and just spent it on drugs or whatever he spent it on. And I remember like just crying, trying to figure out how I was going to pay the bills. And I'm like, we're going to be on the streets. And he didn't care, Then I started to fight back. I'm like, all right, you're not going to steal my stuff. So I would like hide my cards on me or hide the money on me instead of putting it in certain places. Once he realized that, then we were physically fighting. Now it's, pulling my hair, punching me in my face. I remember I had a piercing, eyebrow piercing, and he literally ripped it out. Like it, yeah, it was bad. Um, so at that time, I'm in my head and I feel like I have no one. Like I said, I don't have my dad, I don't have my brother. Um, I didn't want to really get my mom involved. I'm like,
Mhm.
mom involved is, it's not good. She can't really, help me. And then I didn't want to tell people because I felt like people were like, like judge me and be like, like you put that on yourself or whatever the situation was. So I used to
Mhm.
just go to work every day and try to keep a smile and try to still take time and spend time with my kids. But I remember one day I was in the house and we got an argument. At this time, he started to cheat on me.
Mhm.
He couldn't lie to me anymore about, things that was going on. Like the drug habit was really bad. Him being broke, it was like a really bad thing. So he felt like he couldn't impress me anymore, right? He didn't have that way that he had before with me. So now he was looking for that with other people. So he started to talk to someone else, and I had found out about it. And I was just like, it wasn't like I fought with him. I just told him, like, hey, you want to be with somebody else? Just go ahead. Like, we'll be fine. Like, you just go ahead and do you you know, and leave it at that. I was like, but, just don't be making a mess of our life and you want to do other stuff anyway. Um, and then I just remember he like got up, he ran towards me, and he just started choking me. And then the next thing I remember after that, I woke up, I was on the floor, I had
Mhm.
passed out. Yeah. So I don't even know how long I was passed out for. I remember waking up, my son was screaming and crying, and he was still there. He was like standing on top of me, like watching me wake up.
Wow.
I woke up and he just looked at me or whatever, and I'm like trying to scream, but I didn't have any air, so I'm like
Mhm.
telling him get out, like I'm screaming, and he just looking at me, and then he ran out. So then that was the first time I actually called the cops. So I called the
Mhm.
cops. I was like, this man tried to kill me, like come help me. And they came and they're like, well, they're assessing the situation. Like, well, you're married, that's your husband, he's on a lease. Y'all had an argument because me trying to be an honest person, I'm saying like what happened. And they're like, oh, well, y'all had an argument. Then they were even asking me, like, if I started the fight, like, did you put your hands on him first? Yeah. And I'm like, no, I did not put my hands on him. Like, I'm like, I just asked him a question and he blacked out. And I'm like, I don't want him back there. And they're like, oh, well, you need to go take that up with your landlord. And they're like, oh, yeah. And then they gave me a doc number and they told me I needed to go down to City Hall and file for a restraining order.
Mhm.
So I'm like, okay, but it's still, that evening of the day. So I'm like, he's going to come back. So can you guys
Mhm.
put a block? And they're like, well, we could let, every shift know to come around the block and sort of see how you are or make sure things are quiet or whatever. So I'm like, okay, I'm so scared. I'm looking out the window for hours. I've never seen a police car go past, not one time, not once. So I'm just sitting there. I can't sleep. I'm trying to like calm my kids down. I'm putting my son to sleep, and I basically slept in a window. I'm just
Mhm.
watching, making sure that he's not going to come back, and I'm just scared. And then at that time, he didn't text me. So usually he would get angry. He would text me. I would sort of know what's going on, what he's thinking.
Mhm.
Him not texting me, it scared me even more because I'm like, I have no idea where his mental is, where he is. And yeah, I just remember being terrified.
Mhm.
Then another time, I remember he came in the house and he just like he started just really going crazy. He just started breaking everything in the house and he was like, give me the money, give me the money. And it was crazy because I really didn't even have money at that time. I didn't even get paid yet. So I'm like, I don't have no money. But I could see it in his eyes. His eyes were like bloodshot. He didn't
Mhm.
even like look like he was looking at me. It was almost like he was looking past me.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
he's like, give me the money, give me the money. And I'm like terrified. I'm like, I don't have no money. And then I'm like, it's some jewelry in the back room. And then I like rush and I grab the kids and I jump in the car and I'm pulling off because I'm like, he's not going to find no money. He's going to kill me. So I jump in the car and I'm pulling off. And then I just remember him yelling outside, I'm going to catch you and I'm going to kill you, you know? And I remember I sat in like the gas station, but like the parking area for
Mhm.
about probably about 8 hours because I
Mhm.
didn't want to go to my mom's. I really didn't
Mhm.
want anybody in my business. I felt like the cops just weren't going to help me. And I just sat there for hours. My kids fell asleep in the car, but I just felt like we were safe. I'm like, we're just safe. We're in the car, you know, like I'd rather just be here. Um, then it was the next day I had went because that was like the evening, so that went into the morning. So by the next day I went home and I called the cops and I said, "Listen, I had a situation yesterday. I don't know if he's still in here. I need to get in the house." So I went inside the house. They came. They did come. They came almost 2 hours later. But
Mhm.
I was in the car, so at least I wasn't in at that time. I wasn't in a situation. They came, they take me in a house, and then he wasn't there, thank God. So I went up, but my house was like destroyed. I remember crying because I had like a baby picture of me and my dad, and he like ripped it up. He just he just didn't care at all. He was very heartless. He knew like how much certain stuff meant to me, and he purposely messed it up, you know, like I'm gonna hurt
Yeah.
you. So
Other ways of manipulating.
mhm. Um, so I went in the house and I started to get my stuff together or whatever the situation was. And I was like, I'm just tired, you know. And my oldest son was crying. He was pouring out crying. He was so scared. And my youngest, he was still little. He was still pretty little, but he was calm. And I just remember looking and I was like, I don't want my kids to think this is normal. You know, I don't want them to think this is okay. So I almost felt like with my youngest son that he was scared, but at the same note, he was like, this is what they do, you know? Like he was almost numb to it.
Mhm.
So that situation scared me even more because I'm like, I don't want to raise kids that, especially boys, into men that think that this is okay or this is what love is, you know?
Mhm.
So I started really thinking to myself, like, I have to get myself together. I had to start thinking of a way to get away, you know, because
Mhm.
I always knew when he left, he was coming back. There was never one time he left and I was like, oh, he's gone. Like, I always knew he was coming back. It was just when, you know? Um, so from there, I was like I'm done with him. I went down to the courts. I got the restraining order. I talked to my landlord. I was like, hey, I want to get him I want to get him off the lease, right? I wanted to move, but at the time I wasn't set up. Remember, he was taking all my money. I wasn't
Mhm.
set up in a way to move. And the last place I wanted to go is to my mother's house and bring that
Mhm.
to her. So I was like, I told him my plan. I said, I'm not definitely not going to stay the full 2 years. I was like, but I am going to be here for now. I'm taking him off the lease. I was like, and as soon as I can, I'm going to move. And he was so awesome. He was like, you know what, like I understand. He said that he did get a couple calls from neighbors saying they heard me
Mhm.
screaming. And so I was like, okay, like he's gonna work with me. This is gonna work out. And I remember calling the cops like anytime he would send me a text, like, "Oh yeah, you think you safe?" Or he would say something to me, and I would call the cops, and then the cops would come, and they would say, "You can't just call the cops because somebody texts you."
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, but I know him. Like if he's texting me, he's close.
He's
He's
close by.
watching. He's gonna come here. Like I'm like I know this man, and they're just like, we hear you, but the system doesn't work that way. And I'm like, okay. So then it almost made me not want to call, you know.
Yeah.
Uh, so then one time I was walking in the house and he sent me a picture of myself going in the house. So
Oh
then I'm
yeah.
like, he's here. Like, I'm calling, and they're like, oh, we're 15 minutes away. And they're like, if you can get in your car and start coming towards us. So I'm like, okay. I jump in a car and I'm driving, and next thing I know, I just hear like a car like zooming behind me. So at the time, that he used to use my car all the time. He used to take my car. So I'm not even used to him having his own car. So when I see this car, I'm like, it can't be him, like it can't be. And then I keep looking back, and then I know it's like it is him. He pulled on the side of me. He's telling me to pull over, and I'm like, no, no, no. So now I'm calling the cops, and I'm like, yo, he's chasing me, like he's behind me. So I remember I was in my Tahoe, my green Tahoe truck. So I'm driving, and I'm trying not to go too fast. I had my kids in the car, so I'm trying not to go too fast, but fast enough. And next thing I know, he's like bumping the back of my car. I'm like, oh my God, this man is gonna kill me. Like, he's gonna make us flip. So then I'm on the phone with the cops, and they're like, can you call him and like say something to him? Like, so I'm trying to call him, and I'm like, listen, like, the kids are in here. You know what I mean? Like you're gonna hurt the kids. Like, if you don't care about me, at least care about them. And he's like, all you gotta do is pull over. It's like he just wasn't like, all you gotta do, if you really care so much, you'll just pull over. And I'm like, I'm not pulling over. And the cops are like, keep coming forward, like we're gonna need you. So I'm like, okay. So I start going forward. And
You hear the music, you're like, what is happening?
yeah,
It's okay. That's just it's showing us that it's towards the end of our show. So I don't want to cut you off. We have about 3 more minutes.
okay.
But I'm glad that you were able to share our story because
Right.
like I stated, Ray was giving us words for everyone. So he put up for you all inspiring. And that's
Mm.
admirable for you because I think that we haven't gotten to that part, but very quickly, I want you to tell us what it is that you do now for a living.
Yeah.
So, how
So
many years ago was this abuse? And I'm going to
so
bring the ladies to join.
yeah, so it was in 2014. It started 2007. It was 2014. And then by about 2018 is when I started looking for self-protection and, trying to figure out other ways because I was being stalked. So to protect myself and protect my children. And then from there, I got into firearms and I started going to the range all the time. And now I'm a firearm instructor. So now I teach other women how to shoot and protect themselves and protect their families. And, I try my best. I still do work with domestic violence survivors when I can. Some, programs, they don't let me, but I try to reach out to us the most because I feel like, sometimes we feel like we have nothing and we have no one. So being able to depend on yourself is actually a really big and inspiring thing.
Absolutely. So I'm sorry we had to cut you off, but if you're watching, you can see that a lot of our stories can go a lot longer than just one show. It's
Right.
difficult to wrap up into one show what it is that someone has went through, especially when they're living through any form of domestic violence. Dannielle gave a lot into her story of things that I didn't hear the first time. So I encourage all
Mhm.
of you to go back and watch the first show that she was on because her story does not end there. It will definitely tell you what she went through and how she became an arms instructor and what made her do what she does now. And something very important to say because people are like, oh my God, she shoots now.
Mhm.
There, we did ask her this the last time she was on, and she does have a protocol prior to them beginning to learn how to use guns. We do she does make sure that there's safety protocols and that these women are not in their mind and thinking they want to shoot someone, but realistically working on defending themselves when in very cautious situations. So all three of you ladies have gone through such a mountain of storms. And I know that, just one show couldn't tell what all of you have been through. But I hope that if people are watching, they got a small picture of what you ladies have been through, but can also attest to the fact that since then, as I stated, Jennifer got on the screen and her smile was huge and she had a lot of energy. And, Chrissy gave us a very, very touching, part of her story that she doesn't share with people when it comes to the child. And Dannielle was able to tell you about her as well, and just the fear of having someone chase you down the street. All of us have similar stories in some way, shape, or form. And if you are watching our shows weekly on Tuesdays and you come to our events, you can continue to see the journey that a lot of these women have been through. It's not easy, people. It is not easy at all to get on the screen to share your stories. It's not easy to share with others who don't understand, who've never walked in the walk that we've walked in. A lot of people say, I won't ever, I'll never let anybody put their hands on me. Some people say if you're still living in it or you're still talking about it, you're dwelling on it. People do not realize until they're properly educated what it's like to be someone who was formerly victimized. There's so many ways that you can be victimized, whether it's domestic violence, whether it's sexual abuse, whatever it is, whatever form of abuse you have, there are so many chapters, so many levels of how one can walk through it, get past it, but we still have moments where we think of it. I don't say that being a victim of domestic violence in my past has made me a victim now. I don't believe myself to be a victim now. I believe, like, someone gave me a bunch of shirts once, and she supports us, and she said that she doesn't like to call herself a victim because she's no longer a victim. So she calls herself a victor, which I believe is just awesome way to put it, because you've gone above everything that you've been through and you're no longer living in that, but you're living in the victory that you share now of being out of that. But it doesn't take away from the pain that sometimes we fall back on. It doesn't take away from the moments that we may have now where we're scared and we're still worried. And, sometimes if a certain noise, a gunshot or something goes off, we kind of look and we're nervous. Or if we're in a new relationship, it's harder for us to get soft because we seem a little bit hard. It's not that we're still broken. It's not that we're damaged. But, with any form of abuse, there always is the aftermath. And years later, 20, 30 years later, people who have lived things like the Holocaust or World War II, they still have those things that can trigger them. So I hope that people see, though, from today that you three women, Dannielle Dupree, Christine Lopez, and Jennifer, realize that you went through that storm, but you came out victorious. You were all still here. You were all still smiling. You're survivors. And in my book, you were all sheroes because you continue to live every day and make it a positive thing. Each of you in some way, shape, or form is still doing something positive because of what's happened to you. Chrissy has her shirts now that say stronger as her form of just helping others. And when you wear it, feeling more resilient. Jen, they told her she wasn't going to get that degree. And look at her, she's about to graduate. They shook a gun in front of Danielle's face. And instead of that being what scared her away, she now holds them. She teaches other people how to use them properly. And she allows people to learn self-defense against a lot of different things. So if that doesn't make you a victor, I don't know what it does. But I think that you three are prime examples of the type of people that we love to shine. So I am super happy that you three were here. I'm happy that people have watched and they're able to support you. I see the comments from people, and you guys do have supports that are watching. I want you all to know that we are so honored to have you at our Love Gala this year. And we are so excited to be able to honor you and give you that award in front of so many people, because every single one of you deserve it. So before I get emotional and I'm crazy, I'm going to do as we always do. Danny Rodriguez says, much respect to all these women. I love you, little sis Jen. You guys will inspire a lot of young women to stay strong and keep it moving, not over. Let me tell you, I have gone through this whole episode trying not to cry because I get super emotional. So if people watch me, they know I get emotional. But each of you touches my heart in a very different way, because I lived through my abuse in the dark like a lot of us do. And through this organization, I've been able to come out about my abuse and been able to do these every week. And I'll tell you, this is not easy, people. It is not easy to think of my past and to live in it presently with hearing people weekly. But it does fill my heart to know that, even though we went through what we went through, we're here, we're smiling, and we're doing what we need to do. So I'm proud of each and every one of you. I give you all your flowers because you all deserve it. Usually at this time, we give a closing thought. I know that it's past an hour, so I just want to tell you all that we're going to put you on by yourselves one by one. Just give us, each of you, one word of what you believe describes you now. We'll try to make it short and sweet so that we can let our viewers go for the evening. But each of you, when you have your moment, just give us one word that you feel describes who you are now as a person. So I'm going to leave the screen. I'll let Ray decide who goes first, and then I'll give out my closing thoughts and say goodbye.
My word has always been, and it will be, stronger.
Thank you, my love. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate you. I love you. Stay in the back.
Love you
We'll say
too.
goodbye together. Our next person, what is your one word that describes you now?
Mine would be, I feel like motivated. I feel like
Motivated.
I'm very motivated to help other women that are like us and, to get through my past and know it wasn't just for nothing.
That's
So,
right. That's amazing. And you have people, little people who are watching you. So that's a great word. Let's see what Jen's is. What's your word, babe?
I am woman.
Hey, hear me roar.
I'm woman. That's it.
That's right. Thank you so much for being here, Jen. I cannot wait to see the three of you at that gala because you're all gonna
Yes,
look
I can't wait.
beautiful.
I can't
I'm
wait.
gonna I'm gonna give my final thoughts and then we'll say goodbye so that these people can go to bed or do what they gotta do. Thank you all so much for watching. I see all of you. Thank you for holding on this long. Sorry for holding you more than an hour, but I always say it's my show. I do what I want. Thank you guys for watching every week, for being a part of this, for interacting with our people. But thank you even more tonight for continuing to love on them and to give them what they definitely need. For years, we were given abuse, we were given negativity, we were given negative words, and we were told that we are not going to amount to anything. So the fact that you guys get on, I always, always love the people who are watching because you continue to love on them and fill their cups. And that's absolutely what we want from our audience when the people are on, to make them feel loved and welcome. If you have not purchased your tickets to our Love Gala, our third annual Love Gala is March 18th, 2023. We are going to have a fantastic time. As always, I call it our Survivor's Ball. Thank you so much for being with us. Make sure you purchase your tickets. They are live on Eventbrite. Come see these amazing women, these different award recipients who will be there, who will be making this such an amazing evening. We're going to highlight them. We have performances, we have awards, we have an amazing touching program, we have raffles, we have music, but we have each other. And that is what is super, super important for us. We are so excited to have you again. March 18th, 2023, we will be at the Waterfront Room off of Southampton Road. So join us, put on your beautiful gowns, your nice tuxedos, and make it an absolutely amazing night. I am so excited to have you ladies here, and I can't wait to see you all dressed
I
up.
can't wait
Same
either.
here.
I'm so excited.
No,
Me
me
too.
We will be here next week with Miss Alma Arce Rios, and she will be giving us her viewpoint as a funeral director who has dealt with burying some women and men who have lived through domestic violence and unfortunately have lost their lives.
I know her. I
Yeah.
know
You
her.
better know her. Join us next Tuesday, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Have a good night. Ladies,
Good
don't leave.
night.